I think it's maybe a little important for me to tell you about my credentials. Yes, I was also the executive director before Steve was, but before that, I was in academia. So what I'm going to be talking about is going to be a little simplified because of the time constraints. But if you have any questions that really dig into the evolution or some other aspect of this, feel free to fire away. I'll give it my best shot.
That advances the slides.
Right on. I think we are ready to go. Can everybody hear me okay? Barely. This mic is for that. The other mic is not working well, so I have to project. If you can't hear me, close the doors, and you could also move forward. I will try to project. I will try to use my teacher voice as much as possible. But, yeah. Okay. So the evolution of morality has been something that has intrigued me since I got into academia. I studied with Charles Michener, and he is the founder of all things bee. He is like E.O. Wilson is to ants, Charles Michener was to bees. So I learned a lot about sociality and its evolution. And there are 4 big reasons why this sort of thing is something I want to bring to you to learn about. The reason number 1 is I see things like this on the internet. What makes humans so special? And they say it's because we have a chin. And I'm like, really? First of all, so do elephants. And second of all, really? That's what's important? I mean, just, and then they hypothesize about why, and their reasoning I find really faulty. Okay, so, and the other thing is I'll see things like this. This is going to be a fairly long quote from an article by a person who gave it another talk, Godwin Smith Myers or something like this. And he says, what is a human? As Professors Lieberman, which is how he pronounced it, I'm pretty sure it's Lieberman, or how he spelt it, excuse me, and Urban have already noted, modern humans are unique in having complex culture with a wide variety of social norms and behavior. I look at that and I go, huh, okay. Language and symbolism. Other animals have language and symbolism. Just because it's not something where they are giving PowerPoint presentations like this, all things exist in gradients, and that's strange to me that we tend to talk like this. So peeing on something, that's a symbol to another animal. That's communicating. Rubs, that's communicating. If you don't know anything about bees, my goodness, they are the queens of communication. They can communicate what a substance is, how far it is, how much effort it'll take to get there, the exact direction. Amazing abilities to communicate. And they do it by dancing. All right, then they say biologically we have very large brains in comparison to our body size, small non-projecting faces, and bipedal locomotion. Again, I kind of go, all right, dolphins have big brains, right? And we have non-projecting faces. What? So what does that have to do with anything? And then bipedal locomotion. Lots of things have bipedal locomotion. And I look at something like that and I think, I can't fly. That's remarkable to be able to fly. These things are not so remarkable to me in many ways, so much as this. And so he says, he concludes, the major question here is when did these distinctive features of modern humans appear in the course of our evolution? Now, if I haven't already kind of made my point subtly, I'm going to do it more directly by rewriting this with a different animal. What is a lion? As previously noted in the literature, modern lions are unique in having complex culture with a wide variety of societal norms and behavior. If you know anything about lions, they certainly do. Language and symbolism. They pee on things, they roar, they do all sorts of things. They have body language that communicates things. Biologically, a unique ability to hunt and kill water buffalo with their bare hands. I can't do that. The major question here is, when did these distinctive features of modern lions appear in the course of evolution? No scientist ever talks about another animal that way. Why do we talk about humans that way? Humans are special. Oh, that sort of argument always gets me, oh gosh, can we get past this and get to the real science? Right? Okay, so number 2. Humans are the only animal with rules. I hear this all the time. I'm like, really? Really? A dog doesn't know rules unless you teach it to them. You're looking at it very, very anthropomorphically. A dog, what's that dog saying to you? Happy, right? And the rules are in dog world, if you put your tail up and wag, you better not bite. That would be weird. Cats. What's this cat saying? Do not touch me. A lot of people don't understand cat behavior. I did cat behavior as a living for a while. That cat is saying, do not touch me, get away from me. It's sending really clear signals. And one of the signals is its tail is flailing about, it's wagging. Opposite meaning, but it's talking to you. And those two animals, again, cats and dogs, are communicating extremely clearly what they want, what they're doing. Those are rules. In dogs especially, as a good example, the rules of play are very clear. And if you break the rules, there are consequences. We're not so special in this way. If you look at even insects, this is a mediocre picture of what I'm trying to show you here. When you look at honeybee hives, even no matter how small or large, but this one shows it particularly well because it's got a very long tube for an exit and entrance. The bees that are coming into the hive always enter at the bottom and go up the bottom. The bees that are exiting the hive always come out the top. And you can't see it very well, but all these are on the top are going that way. Anybody who goes the wrong way winds up getting bumped a lot. So they follow the rules. Number 3, articles like this, just all of these, they grate my cheese. Here's why. The moral life of babies, canine empathy, evidence that animals other than human beings can self-recognize, and that animals other than human beings can recognize emotion. These are all perfectly valid studies, very interesting and wonderful, great. They shouldn't be surprising. Why are they surprising? Why do people go, oh my goodness, dogs can love us? Well, duh. Do you think love is the exclusive domain of a single species? I don't think so. Okay, so there's this myth out there that only adult humans can be psychologically complex. Even the notion that babies can't be psychologically complex is being shown to be hogwash, but there's still people who don't think so. And then number 4, I have a personal dog in this fight. I am a secular humanist, and as such, I see all the time, how could you be good without religion? Perfectly fine. I don't need that at all. Human beings do not need external culture in that sense to dictate what we think is good and bad. We really don't. All right, so let's go over evolution for just a second. Probably all of you know this, but whether it's gradual or punctuated, I don't care what you're talking about. Evolution takes time, and you can trace the morphology in, you can look at their genes, their physiology, their morphology. I don't care what you do. You can trace the evolution, and then it has predictive value. So one real clear example of that is Tiktaalik. If you haven't heard of this before, look it up. It's fascinating. Scientists knew, does this have a pointer on it? Scientists knew about the fish-like animals that had hand-like fins, and they knew about the animals that had finally gotten out on the land and were ambulatory, but they hadn't yet found that in-between animal. But they knew that it had to be somewhere between 380 million years ago and 360 million years ago. So they went and looked at geological formations that they knew were that old in the area where they knew this had evolved. Guess what they found? Predictive value. It's there. All right. So, something that, well, what I focused on a lot in my PhD was behavior. And what a lot of people have a hard time with is that behavior, just like physiology and anatomy and morphology, is genetic. You think, oh no, there's so much learned. There is plasticity, but no more than what is allowed for in the genes. Humans can eat a wide variety of foods, and there's a lot of variation in what is in our gut in terms of the flora and fauna, but I will never be able to eat carrion. It's just not in there. Another example. We all can communicate in a lot of different ways. We're all very proud of how well we can communicate. But I will never be able to roar like a lion, and that's some serious communication right there. You ever heard lions make when I hear them roar in the zoo or something, my hair stands on end. And the other thing is, if you want to talk about plasticity, I have, as I've aged, become more patient and tolerant of whatever. But I will never have the patience that I see Barack Obama have. That man is one cool cucumber. I will never be that good. It's just not in my genes. Okay, so humans have societies, and this is often touted as our big deal. All right, so having a society isn't something that we decided to do. Plasticity in our behaviors that were successful allowed us to become social. Let me talk about that some more. So one thing that helps us look at it is the extremes. If you look at sociality versus solitary life, there are pros and cons to both. And both of them ultimately come down to whether the gene for that within that organism is selfish. Who here has not heard of the selfish gene? Thought so. Okay, I won't go into that. Selfish genes, they're doing what they want to do because they want to pass on. That's oversimplified. So if you're a social animal, you can specialize and you can have huge populations. But if you get isolated or are by yourself, you're kind of screwed. Solitary animals, they can do everything it takes to be that animal, top to bottom, front to back. But they can't really grow into large populations because you have to be able to do everything. And so you see bears, you only have a few bears here and there, but human beings, we kind of hit the evolutionary jackpot. We're everywhere. We have very, very, very much specialized. So if you don't believe it's genetic, how would you answer these questions? If you are solitary, would it hurt you as an individual? Would it hurt your specific genes to kill another of your kind? Not so much. Not really. Because really, everybody else is just competition. They don't really give you much except maybe genes if you want to mate. If you cheat on another of your kind, this happens all the time in birds, both in terms of food and mating. And there are consequences to it, but if a bear cheated another bear, or let's see, another solitary animal, blanking, Jaguar chase another jaguar. I don't think that's really a thing. And if you have communication skills that are really poor and you're solitary, it's not that big a deal. On the other hand, if you're social, all those things are very much a big deal. So I'm going to get back to my roots here and talk about bees a little bit. Everybody knows about honeybees, right? And everybody thinks those are what bees are. There are only 11 species in the whole wide world of honeybees, the most social bee. There are somewhere between 20 and 30,000 species of bees that are either solitary or some lower level of sociality under there. Like this bee that's on the right here, that's a leafcutter bee. If you've ever seen leaves in your garden that have a little disc cut out of them, that's been cut out by a bee. The females take those and line their nests, lay their eggs. They do all the provisioning, all the building, all the everything. Solitary, and they're fine. They're successful. But you have everything in between, too. This illustration is just lovely. It's got a lot of information, but the basic thing is you've got evolutionary time, and you have what are seen as the less social bees here and the most social up there. And you see gradations in the level of sociality that they have. And if somebody wants me to get into different types more, we can do that, but I need to move on. And I think in human beings, we should be able to parse out the behavior and how it's important in getting to be social the same way we do in other organisms. So behavior is genetic. There's a spectrum of sociality, and the continuum can be seen by studying related organisms. I hope I got you all there. But you might say, there's a difference between being social and being moral, right? Well, let's talk about that. What is moral behavior? Think about that for a little bit, maybe. You probably have some notion of what it is in your own mind. Here are some ideas about what it is. You could say it's societal norms and behavior. Yeah, kind of. It's a little more nuanced than that. Rules for the betterment of society. Kind of, but it's a little more nuanced than that. I would argue it. There has to be a distinction between right and wrong, or good and bad, really, for it to be called morality, I think. So let's talk about an extreme one. Killing is bad. That's something that we feel a lot of moral stuff around. Is it really? Of course, we can all think of examples where it's not bad. You can hunt other animals. You can kill someone in self-defense. You can kill someone who is about to harm someone near and dear to you. You can assisted suicide is another one that's somewhat controversial, of course. And hunting and euthanasia of a pet. Is that all wrong? No, obviously there's nuance here. So let's be more specific, and this is about as specific as I could come up with. It is always wrong for one adult human to kill another adult human without due cause. I think I got it all. Because if I think about any human, and children accidentally shoot adults or each other all the time, that's an accident, so it's not really so much wrong, blah, blah, blah. It's complicated. So we look at that, and now you think about, I don't care what animal you think about. If you think about even a solitary animal, but any social animal, lions or bees, any individual kills another one for no reason. Is that going to happen in their societies? No, it doesn't. Any animal that does that, it just hasn't been seen, to my knowledge. And if that's true, that to stop murder, other animals don't need to codify it, but we do. Doesn't that make us less moral in a way? But see, the thing is, what I'm arguing is that we don't really need to codify it. We all kind of know that it's not right. there are two reasons why I feel like this sort of thing isn't codified it doesn't need to be codified in order for us to follow it. We are just like every other animal. If you look at these crickets, their aggression sequence, if there are two fighting crickets, the lowest amount of aggression you can have is they avoid each other, one fighting, fencing, mandible spreading, which is a threat, and mandible engagement, and then full-on grappling and so forth. You'll see the same thing in human beings and any other animal that has aggression. Any animal that has an immediate response to grappling or aggression, full-on aggression, it's not going to survive very long. And you'll see that if you tally up the percent of each of these types of behaviors, there's going to be a whole lot of these down here. And the higher you get up on this scale, the very much less you'll see of the aggressive behavior. So it just makes sense for us to avoid killing. It just makes sense. And the other thing is we need to look at other animals and see when they kill and what surrounds that and how it's similar or dissimilar to human beings. Lions, everybody knows, I think, that when a new lion comes in and threatens, comes in and takes over pride, they kill the cubs so that the female comes back into estrus and then she can give birth to his cubs. The females, do they sit around and go, oh, it's cool, I'm good with it, you just do what you need to do? No, they fight like crazy. They defend their babies. Murder's not cool with them, if you want to look at it that way. How is that not murder? It's got a reason, but it's still murder. Ants, oh my goodness. Ants, all Hymenoptera. If one colony crosses another, fight, huge fight, to the death. And again, they're going over boundaries. We kind of do that too, a lot, unfortunately. Chimpanzees, a lot of people have pointed at chimpanzees as being super violent. They have lots of murder and even infanticide. You know what they found when they studied all those murders? Really, really looked at them? All of them had to do with territory. Somebody crossed somebody else's line. They don't do it for fun. They don't do it without reason. If they did, that would be bad, just like with us. It's no different. And then this is an interesting one that's just really anecdotal, but there's a show or a movie called Cloud, the stallion, and in it there's a stallion called Looking Glass, and that's him. A mare from another troop gives birth to a foal that can't stand. And the mares stand around for a long time trying to get the foal to stand up. Come on, come on, come on, but it's clear something's wrong. And the band starts to move on. The mares are still hanging on, but the stallion's kind of going, come on, let's go. This stallion approaches, and so the other mares move off. His mares come up and check out the baby. They're like, huh, something's going on here. Then this stallion approaches it, grabs it by the neck, and kills it viciously. Well, first of all, you could talk about that being an evolutionarily good thing to do because it's somebody else's baby and it's going to be competition later on. You could look at it cold hard like that. But what's interesting to me is that the mares from both bands did everything they could to keep him from killing that foal. It mattered to them. They saw that as bad. Otherwise, why would they be acting so aggressive to him? Taking on a stallion is no small thing for a mare. All right. So, and you can flip it on its head. If you want to flip morality on its head, there are insects. I don't know of any animals, really, who become food for the female. And the theory there is that, therefore, the female has more protein, more resources, can use your sperm to make more and healthy babies. So it's evolutionarily wise to be eaten by your mate. So, is it immoral to get away? My point here is that we are looking at morality from a uniquely social point of view. Okay, is it learned? It's not black and white, but it's clear we come pre-wired for it, and that much is true. Were we super brilliant to have thought up social rules? No. It's pretty clear they're everywhere in any animal. Have other animals got social rules? Absolutely. That's just ridiculous. Whenever I hear somebody, and you watch for it, people say, oh, animals don't have rules. We're the only ones that have rules. No. But do they judge behavior as good or bad? It's pretty clear that other animals perceive behaviors as acceptable or unacceptable. And if you want to call that good or bad, I would argue that's just semantics. We talk about morality being good and bad. That's acceptable and unacceptable. To me, they have morals too, if you want to get down to it and define it that way. And those behaviors that they do have consequences. I don't care what species you are. So here's what I propose. If you define morality as behaving in such a way that facilitates social living with consequences for behaving in ways that is detrimental to social living, then humans are moral. But then so are all the other animals. And if we are looking for a character unique to humans, morality just isn't going to be one of them. In fact, I would say that most social animals seem to be much better at morality than we are. I think it's likely everyone here would agree that killing someone for money is not moral. And yet we have super big trouble with global warming deniers, climate change deniers. See, I'm not one of them, so I don't think about that term very often. Global warming is real, that's what I think. Climate change deniers. That comes down to money. And denying it, to me, is unbelievably immoral. Here's another one. Okay, so we defined, we said that sociality requires rules, etc. I haven't seen a single argument against homosexuality that holds water when considering its impact on our ability to function as a society. As far as I can tell, those who perceive homosexuality as a problem don't come from a place of morality, but of ignorance and lack of empathy. And both of those things are not very social. And I'm not saying either of these two things with a social, with an agenda or anything, a liberal agenda. It just makes sense in terms of evolution and being social, according to what other animals behave like. So, I hope that this has helped you parse the term morality and think about it when you see how the literature and people in general treat it. So thank you very much. Okay. Any questions? Yes?
I wondered if you alluded to this and I might have just misunderstood it.
Uh-huh.
You were saying that other animals don't kill because killing is bad, and I was in my mind thinking of like mass shooters, people that go off the deep end. Would you say that the animal community doesn't have things like that happen where one animal does something like that, or have we just not observed that?
Not with a conspecific. There are definitely cases where animals go on killing sprees, but it's prey items. If you go to see an arrabata when the baby turtles come up, the animals that come to feast on them, the vultures get so full they can't even take off, but they still run around and peck them and kill them. That's not adaptive. I don't think that's murder. I mean, it's a different species, and it's got to do with hunting, and we do that too. Killing your own species without any due cause at all, I don't know of a single example. There's either some line that got crossed, some threat that occurred, a mate at stake, something. It just doesn't, and if they do, it's certainly rare because I don't see anybody going up, oh, I know of one. It's a lot rarer than it is in humans. Yes?
What then causes animals to cross their borders or their boundaries, and then there could be clashes if they know so much to keep in order? Why does that?
Well, if you want to come see my kids talk, I'll be talking about sexual selection, which is a reason for a lot of it, competition for mates, competition for territory, competition for resources. That's largely what it is in most animals, and really in human beings. If you look at it, that's what it is for us too. So we're not so different. That's my point. That's my point. Yes?
So in the case of the mating foal, you brought up earlier that, do animals see morality as black and white? But without being able to actually see what the stallion was thinking, it seems more like killing off the defective offspring, that the one that couldn't make it, seemed more like an act of compassion instead of a threat for competition.
Right. Okay, so no matter whether you look at it as an act of compassion, which is what the filmographer said, or if you look at it as a biologist would, killing off the competition, that is, I don't know what's going on in his head. What was remarkable to me was that all the mares from both troops, his and the others, were like, whoa, dude, what are you doing? And they were going nuts. Screaming, horses scream, screaming, striking, rearing, everything to try to stop him. Yeah.
With the gradients of morality, is it possible that one could be, I don't know how to phrase it properly, is it possible that, I'm sorry, I'll get back to you on this one.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Yeah.
I believe that I've seen in more than one case that at least one genus of wolf is monogamous for the most part. It's a social structure.
Mm-hmm.
And does this occur in very many other animals, or almost not?
Okay, that's a complicated thing. Having a top mating pair is very common in social animals. In the truly social animals, the very most social animals, like bees, there's only one pair that ever mates, and nobody else is even capable of mating. It's that parsed out. But really, when you look at that sort of pair thing, whenever they study really close, they find that there's lots of cheating going on. Yeah. And that has, again, if you look at it, again, to do with biology and passing on genes and so forth. It's
As far as rearing the young, they may pair up and continue to. Penguins, for example, will stay together, and the male will go off and come back, and the female will go off and come back, and they'll pair there, but they may not see each other next year.
right.
But as far as that mating ritual at that time, they're locked together.
Yeah. There's I think that might be the only, there are very few cases where there's absolutely no cheating. Even whenever we think there's monogamy, usually there's not. The only one that I know of that there's absolute monogamy, not even honeybees, but termites. It's the only one. And it's because the king and the queen grab each other, they start a colony, and they're stuck underground together for 20 years or so. There isn't anybody else, so whatever that means. All right, one more question.
One of the last examples you were giving about social and, I guess, non-social behavior regarding talking about climate change and also homosexuality. And I was thinking in the context of those that even when people are going against, I guess, would be considered the more like progressive, standpoint on those things and whatnot, I think those can still be very social behaviors because they're getting social reinforcement from them. From other people within their groups, and it reminds me almost like of
I think of it more as game theory, in that you can't have too many hawks like that or we'll all go down. And thank goodness 75% of us are doves in this case, because we'd be really in trouble. The problem is those 25%, as we all know, have 99% of the wealth. And so really, and in terms of evolution, no, they're not succeeding. They are eventually going to screw their own genes. It's very short-sighted and very maladaptive, extremely maladaptive. And I say that from a biological, I have no agenda. That is just from a biological point of view. Global warming is happening. They are causing it. They are not stopping it. They are screwing themselves. So I think I better stop. Oh, I can do more questions. Oh, one more, okay.
You kind of touched on this in the beginning, but going back to those 4 points, the very fourth one was about religion.
Mm-hmm.
How it was kind of like humans have religion, that's kind of a plus point. But do you think that's an evolutionary plus or minus in regards to us? And is there any way that we observe that in animals, kind of back to that first?
Oh, I love this question. There is lots going on there. Okay, so yes, evolutionarily, religion makes sense. We look for patterns. When we find patterns, we are rewarded. Anything that goes roar, we run away from. And then we start to get too excited about patterns, and we look for patterns where there aren't even any patterns, and that's where, frankly, religion comes in. People who think they have some sort of influence over the world because they pray, sorry, Steve, is because randomly, once in a while, something goes right, and then they look at that, and that's called confirmation bias. But then you think, okay, so human beings are weird because we have this strange looking for patterns and formation of religion. I would argue this. If you take a pigeon and put it in a box and randomly feed it, probably some people know about this, you randomly feed it, it'll just be walking around, and then it'll go peck, peck, and then something drops out, and they're like, whoo, okay, so when I peck, that happens. All right, peck, peck, nothing's happening because it's random. Peck, 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 turn, poop. Oh, I must have to peck, peck, turn. Okay, peck, peck, turn, peck, peck, turn. Nothing's happening. Peck, peck, turn, bob, boop. Okay, I got some more food. And this is, I'm not making this up, at the end of an hour, that pigeon will be dancing the most ridiculous dance over and over again because it thinks there's a pattern where there isn't. Does that sort of get at your question? Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.